And right now at 5, an outbreak at the Animal Foundation appears to be spreading.
Yeah, the number of dogs showing signs of illness has nearly doubled since Monday. The shelter says 77 dogs at least may be sick, but they are all responding well to treatment.
Fox 5's Danny Maston joins us now with how local businesses that deal with dogs are coping with this news. Danny?
John and Jacqueline, here at Houndstown in Henderson, they offer services like doggy daycare, grooming, and boarding. The owner tells me they have been extra cautious since the initial announcement of the outbreak at the Animal Foundation.
Just asking that people be a little extra diligent, really pay attention to their dog's symptoms. We're always watching our dogs and making sure that we're not noticing any symptoms.
Owner of Houndstown, Jessica Enders, tells me when a new customer brings their dog in, they ask if they have recently fostered or adopted from the Animal Foundation.
If we had a dog that started to show symptoms, we would pull them out of the general population and have them in an isolation room. And then if they're just here for daycare, we just call the parents to let them know they need to come pick them up.
Houndstown isn't the only place taking precautions.
If somebody comes in that's already been booked or somebody that is calling to book an appointment, we're asking them first off if their dog has been at the animal shelter at the Animal Foundation in the last 30 days.
Manager over at PUNKY Pet's PAWLOR, BRANDY GLASGOW, says if a dog has recently been to a dog park, they will not let that dog come in contact with other dogs.
Cleaning, of course, all of our equipment afterwards, which all that stuff is pretty standard stuff that we do anyway, but we're definitely making sure that we're taking precautions and trying to find out the history of the dogs before we do them right now.
Enders tells me she hopes the outbreak at the Animal Foundation doesn't completely steer people away from adopting.
So that way these situations don't happen. We just have a lot of dogs that need homes in the city right now.
Both Houndstown and PUNKY Pet's PAWLOR tell me, fortunately, they have not seen a decline in people using their services due to the Animal Foundation outbreak. Like we already mentioned, dogs that are getting sick from the Animal Foundation are testing positive for pneumovirus. Some symptoms to look out for are sneezing, coughing, and a runny nose. Reporting live in Henderson, I'm Danny Maston, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.